790 Dragon Sports Talk Radio. Sports Talk Radio.
It was 3 a.m. when I heard the sound.
Oh, I love being able to do that live. That's sweet. That actually worked. I wasn't sure it would. Hey, Justin.
Hi, Tom. How are you?
I'm having fun playing with Soundboard for FSL Tonight Season 4, which is going to happen.
Yeah, turns out all we have to do is threaten to talk to everybody, and it goes and it happens. Are we on DiamondClub.tv?
Let me check and make sure. We may not be. I'm not sure if anybody was on top of that. I did. Oh, yeah, we're there. We're there. Absolutely. Smurfly. Everybody's in the chat room, irc.cordkillers.com, or just embedded on diamondclub.tv. And, so we had threatened to say, look, it was Monday. We're $1,000. We're more than $1,000 away. We understand it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
Right? Justin.
This was going to be our resignation talk. We were gonna finally give up the ghost.
We're gonna say, look, maybe we'll try something else. We'll talk to the league. But no. What's funny is both Brian Brushwood and David Michael were like, you guys are fine. You guys are set. But we're spoiled because last year we funded in the first week.
Not only did we fund in the first week, like you had another Kickstarter going.
That's right. We still had the 10-state Kickstarter going at the same time. I forgot about that. It was
like the same thing. So I was like, oh, man, we're totally screwed then. But then again, to be honest, like this one got closer, but I didn't have – that's like kind of the beautiful thing about the FSL Kickstarters for me is that like they've been so low stress. It's just like I'm not super worried about it. The fans are always there. And also it's like it's partially for us. Like we don't like to – jump up and down and flog, this particular Kickstarter because, there's so many other times where we're doing projects that don't have an audience or are new ideas that we're trying to expand into that we have to really put a lot of effort into.
I think what Justin is trying to say is we actually enjoy doing this stupid little show so much that we feel bad.
Asking for money. Well, part of it's that. I mean, but also part of it is like, it's like, I think sometimes that bleeds into the fact that like people just didn't know what was happening, and it's I hadn't talked about it on Night Attack.
Yeah, I hadn't talked about it on DTNS ever. I don't think I did once.
Yeah, I don't think. I think maybe even fleetingly I mentioned it on the morning stream or something like that. So
I did mention it on the morning stream a few times, but again, that doesn't hit everybody. How do you say KA3VO?
I don't
anyway, that person said same here. So
that he didn't mention it on DTNS or Night Attack.
That they didn't know it was happening.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, and that's the thing is that sometimes it's easy for us to just be like, oh, I don't know, like we like doing this. Please, like I don't know, give us money maybe if you feel like it.
It's like I mean we look at it rationally and be like, all right, we work for ourselves for this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So we need to figure out like, well, if we're going to take time to do a show like this, we need to make it worthwhile. It doesn't have to make us rich, but pay some bills, pay for the ability to do things like shirts and stuff and get it off the ground, pay for some time. And then we go and we ask for it, and then we're like, yeah, but we're talking about Gandalf getting in fights with Balrogs, and that's fun.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting thing because wait, sorry, what was that?
You pronounce it Cavo. Cavoy? Cavo. All right. Cavo.
It's curious though because like I think FSL is always something that like I can't even count how many times that we've gotten done with FSL, and like both of us are like, wow, I kind of forgot how much fun that was.
Yeah.
Like
for sure.
But it's because of that it's like I think sometimes especially I think when you're self-employed or self-motivated, you tend to like train your brain to do the things that are more like taking medicine, and you kind of put off the things that are really fun. And that's why it's like for FSL, it's almost like the money is almost more important for FSL because then we're not like, we can have dessert later. Like we can, at some point we'll get together and do FSL. Like this puts it on a schedule. It gives us the impetus to make it like a kind of time sensitive season and really even to take continued risks. And like this is a show that has expanded every season. We've had new ideas and new elements and everything. And last year it really just took on this amazing surreal quality, like with the San Francisco affiliate shows and everything, and I think that's the element that it makes us want to double down on it, but at the same time it's like it almost has to be some kind of a job for us to like look at it as not just us effing around.
It's like, ooh, more pudding. Yeah, got to have something that's that nutritious. This is nutritious. We should not feel bad. Look, I even put an IFB in my ear on purpose.
Hey, look at that.
This is for real. We could do these by Hangouts.
Like just recording and everything?
I'm just saying. I didn't think about it till just now, but you could do that lower third thing.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean,
that's something to think about.
Well, I mean, that's like, in terms of the actual recording, though, it's like we do usually knock them out a couple at a time, so we don't want to we want to dole it out every week. I would love to do a call-in show every couple weeks.
Yeah.
Like, I think we're at the point where we could actually go open lines. And do like maybe not a full, do like a 10-minute, 20-minute thing, and maybe we tack it on to the back of the episode that is coming out that week, or something like that. But
it could be a special episode in the feed, even FSL open line.
Yeah. But that way, because that's always the problem, is that we want to involve everybody, but because of how we record it, it's not super beneficial to that. But I think if we went like open lines until we were like right there in that moment.
How do you do open line and hang? I mean, we might have to do it as just Skype, if that were the case. I have to think about that. I'm just looking at this lower third that
It's good. That looks really good.
Seconds. Yeah. It just makes me think like, shit, TV. And then, of course, the ability to do that anytime we want.
So, no, what do you just you have it in your iPad or like?
Yeah, it's an iPad app. Same thing I use for Daily Tech News Show.
So it's the soundboard one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I use that every day for Go Game stuff. That's where I have all my. Yeah, no, and all the what's it called, the bit I've been doing on what's it called, on Night Attack with where I was mixing speeches with hip hop beats and like Jamaican air horns. That's all on the soundboard thing.
So do you just do, because what I do is I put it in a playlist in iTunes and sync it over. There's no better way, right? That's
well, wait, do you have the soundboard desktop app?
No.
Yeah, dude, I use the desktop app. I put everything in there, color code it, organize it, and then I export that full board through iTunes.
Oh, you still have to go through iTunes.
Through my iPad app, and so like I just download the full boards, and that way I can more easily edit them on the desktop, and then export them and load them on there.
Gotcha. All right. I'm trying to get rid of the iTunes part of that. Well, we got a few questions in here. Bad Speller wants to know if there are any LA or Inland Empire teams in the FSL. No, not this year. The teams for the 2014 season in the Eastern Division will be the San Francisco Federation, the New York Avengers, the Coruscant Empire, and the Cylon Raiders. The Western Division will be the Arrakis Sandworms, the Gallifrey Time Lords, the Skaro Exterminators, and the Ponyville Fillies.
So yeah, we're light on Earth teams this year.
Just San Francisco and New York. Which actually isn't that light. That's, two.
I guess, yeah. We've
25%.
never really been more than two.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Who would be the LA based teams if they were to get
Who would be the Lakers of the FSL? You could have the Los Angeles Escapers for the sequel, Escape from LA. LA Invaders for
Let me hold on.
Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which was filmed around LA. Yeah, it's not a lot of franchise stuff that's coming to mind.
I think I might have one. I just need to double check that it was in LA and not just shot in LA.
End of the world stuff happens in LA.
Yes. Well, of course. I mean, really, one of the biggest ones is the Los Angeles Replicants.
Ah, yes. Well, wait a minute. That's not just Los Angeles anymore, though. Doesn't it have like a really big name? That's a good point. But there's a rivalry. It's a two-team town between the LA Blade Runners,
and the Replicants.
And the Replicants. Replicants are kind of the Clippers. Well, that means something totally different these days, doesn't it? Never mind. In that respect, the Blade Runners are kind of the Clippers.
Exactly. I'll tell you what. It's funny to look at. It's funny to see kind of like how that sort of stuff will work out. I know, like for us when we record it, like to know like what sports controversies or cliches can we kind of work in this year for FSL, and part of them.
You're really good at finding those sports story arcs that we can mimic.
Yeah, that's always super fun to me, and I think. It would be very surprising if we did not work in a meddlesome owner situation in this year's FSL.
I can only imagine that Davros would be caught on tape saying some pretty awful things about humans at some point.
Yeah.
I
mean, listen, there's a lot of really big. There's some big bravado owners out there, you know.
Davros to Dalek Prime. Just don't want you to be seen at the game with him. Do you have to hang out, Dalek Prime?
I forget who I was listening to, but somebody made the point about that Donald Sterling thing, that it's like when he's like, hey, I just don't want you to be seen with him. Like, you can talk about Magic Johnson. Like, you could have sex with Magic Johnson. Just I don't want you seen in public with him. And it's like, listen, for whatever you want to say, it seems reasonably dangerous considering Magic Johnson's very public sexual history for you to just, like have it, at least that not be notified about to somebody for whom you are also having sex with.
Right. Afex wants to know, has FSL ever expanded to the Japanese anime/Godzilla leagues? Well, thanks to DJM last year, who backed the Kickstarter, we covered the Anime League tournament. So there's that. It wasn't FSL proper, though. And Ponyville is kind of the closest team to ever make it out of the Anime Leagues.
FLS Carnage, next year, can we get the Westchester X-Men/Mutants? I'll tell you what, if you've been following some of the fans of the New York Avengers, now that the rumors around Charles Xavier's leadership of that team, if you talk to a pretty excitable Avengers fan, he says that that's already here. That he's gonna bring in his own guys, and that really, the era of Nick Fury's star building is over, and it's the youth movement for the Avengers. But we will see.
Yeah. First preview episode. Of course, we have the Hoth's Tove League episode in the hopper already. If you haven't heard that, go to FSLTonight.com. First preview episode will be May 31st, and the season kicks off June 7th. So we will know by then if there's anything to these rumors of a management change in New York.
Yeah, it's I'll tell you what, though, Avengers fans not particularly happy. It's a very, very controversial time in New York, trying to right the ship after last year's, I think safe to say listless effort by what some overpaid, maybe past their prime kind of heroes.
I haven't been able to get anyone to speak even off the record about management changes, but the one thing they will say is we're turning towards youth. We want a youth movement. So that implies that you're going to see a different lineup here.
And really, if you're an Avengers fan, at least you can look forward to a lineup that's consistent. You can be the biggest Iron Man or Thor or Nick Fury supporter, but at the end of the day, they weren't able to get their people to show up every single week. It was I think no matter who's there, you might be getting lesser players, but at least they're lesser players that are going to be in the lineup, barring any injury or productivity.
And you want to talk about a lineup change? I mean, I know it worked for them last year, but there's no way San Francisco can afford Kirk and Picard.
Well,
that's just too big of a.
At some, I agree. I think that this is an insustainable proposition here, and it's either they are going to prosper or this is going to be an insurrection.
It's like putting on an old coat. Actually, did we not report New York naming a new coach? I forgot that. We did mention that that was reported in the Hot Stove League episode.
Yes. Yeah. No. I believe that that has been. It's hard though. I mean, rumors.
Rumors of ownership change in Arrakis have not been confirmed, but New York did name Xavier coach.
Now the ramifications of that, we are still going to see. I'm pushing for the elevation of the Tokyo monsters: Godzilla, Mothra, King Ghidorah.
Hey, the FSL has been really good about taking fan opinion into account as far as elevation. Every year, well, it seems like lately at least 3 teams get relegated. It's supposed to be 1 or 2, and one of those is a fan vote. That's how Ponyville got it.
Absolutely. They're going to have a shot. You got to wonder about the logistical possibilities of having players like Godzilla, Mothra, and Ghidorah playing. Obviously, the FSL is not unlike any other sports league that has to change the rules to accommodate the larger athlete, just as they did for Wilt Chamberlain and Shaquille O'Neal. I would assume they would have to for Godzilla, Mothra, and Ghidorah.
Yeah, for sure. I like what Eddie P says. I think he's referring to the Federation trying to keep Picard and Kirk. Too many captains, not enough ensigns.
Yeah.
You got to find that balance.
BS for free. I'm just hearing about FSL. The RSS feed of the past 3 seasons. Where can I get them so I can get caught up? Well, if you want to do it in style over the next, what are we at? 20-something hours? About a day away from...
Yeah, right. Let me see exactly what the Kickstarter itself says, but that sounds about right.
Yeah, you can. You can find it on iTunes. You can find it on wherever.
41 hours to go. Sorry.
However, if you would like to do it in style, you could go over to Kickstarter.com right now, search for FSL, and then get a USB drive with every single episode of FSL already on there, so you can upload it to whatever you'd like and listen at your leisure.
Yeah, that's it's one of the perks provided. I'm trying to find. You know what? I think the subscribe link went off the FSL Tonight page.
How many times does this happen, Tom? That we get this far into any kind of FSL discussion before getting to Coruscant, especially considering some of the rumors of new management there. Talk about not only what's happening in New York and Arrakis, but Coruscant, really long understood to be the big moving the needle franchise in this league. Looks like they might have some new hope for their fans.
Yeah, it's some new blood. It looks to be a mix of old and new approaches. Whether that's going to change anything, I mean, they've sort of been coasting. They've never been awful. They've gotten close to relegation, but they haven't, obviously not been relegated. You talk about your middle of the pack team. They need to do something really fiery and really different, and in order to renew the fans' faith in that franchise.
Absolutely. And maybe a little bit more aggression. I mean, like, you've heard rumors that maybe players that cut a similar figure to Gollum from the Mordor Crows might be making their way to Coruscant in the coming years.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't expect going into this season, if the current ownership of Coruscant stays the same, that we will see anything different.
And then if that's the case, maybe some familiar faces, maybe some new blood. We will have to wait and see. Of course, everybody, DCTVpedia. Of course. DCTVpedia.com/FSL_tonight is where you can find the newly christened DCTVpedia description of the show. If you're new to this, or you want to find all the subscribe links, go ahead and catch that there.
I'm putting the I'm trying to find a here we go. I need to put the subscribe to the podcast link back. What happened was I moved the blog from subbrilliant.com/FSL to FSLTonight.com.
Yeah.
And when I did that, any customizations that I had made to the menus disappeared, I guess. So that's another way. Well, that's actually a way to keep up to date on the current episodes. But like Justin said, you can back the Kickstarter at the level that gets you the USB stick, or you can go to FSLTonight.com and plow through the back catalog. They're all in there, and they're all hosted on archive.org, which doesn't go away. That's the nice thing about it. Let's see if that worked. Live HTML. Justin.
Look at that.
Huh? Yeah. There you go. Should have screen capped that. I don't know what else we can tell people other than thanks. We got any more? Is it true that the new owners of the Coruscant Rebels, Coruscant Rebels, are saying they will no longer acknowledge the last seasons? It's the Coruscant Empire.
Yeah.
The Alderaan Rebels, you might be thinking of, were destroyed last season. So those are two different franchises there.
But as to what will happen in the future, as Coruscant is known, they could alter that deal, and you should pray they don't alter it any further.
Listen, nobody. I'm sorry, Justin. I know there's a fantasies out there about ownership change, and we alluded to them, and that's fine to speculate. But nobody's going to assault that fully functional system that they've got there, of course. And you're not going to wrest control away from them.
I mean, listen, but talk about controversial owners. Donald Sterling ain't got nothing on Emperor Palpatine.
On Emperor Palpatine. I don't like you being seen with.
I would appreciate if you did not bring them to my games.
No more of these sand people. It's not okay. Not okay, Emperor Palpatine.
Listen, it's it would. If he wasn't forced to resign, then
What do we know about the Skaro team? Actually, that's a good question. What do we know? Let me pull up the scouting report on Skaro.
Well, I mean, here's what we know.
Not much, really.
Skaro, obviously, a fierce reputation for being the most hard-boiled warriors in the universe. They're going to bring a level of aggression that I don't think the FSL has seen since Mordor was really clicking on all cylinders. What Skaro has going for them, and we can report this here, is that they have rumors are circulating that they have reached out to really a galaxy-wide bevy of talent to help supplement their roster, so it is not only going to be Dalek players. Now, whether or not that comes to be, we will have to remain to be seen. But I am certainly hearing from very credible sources names like the Weeping Angels, names like the Cybermen. We will have to see whether or not they are able to coexist, but they have in the past, and you would have to think that as Skaro moves up to the highest possible level of competition, especially with a natural rival with the Gallifrey Time Lords, who have had a great season, that this is going to be something that they want to pull out all the stops for.
Yeah. I mean, I expect on week 1 that we see a uniform lineup out of Skaro. What's their wonderkind? Kind of a crazy, unpredictable player. Trying to remember the name now off the top of my head, and I can't. But I think that's the most diversity you'll see at the beginning. These rumors of calling up the Angels, calling up Cybermen, that's the kind of alliance that is going to be very difficult for Davros to countenance.
Well,
to be honest.
here's what, and it's going to be hard to even explain to the audience what this really means in terms of the Skaro Exterminators.
Dalek Khan, that's what I was trying.
Dalek Khan. They could lose every game this season as long as they beat Gallifrey. It would be a successful season to them. So knocking out Gallifrey, doing damage to Gallifrey, making sure that they are ranked higher than it. This is a rivalry that I really don't know if we've seen anything like previously in the FSL. At least in terms of teams that are kind of evenly matched and really evenly well run. Anytime we've seen big rivalries, very often one side of it is far more mismanaged than the other, even if they are overpowered. Say what you will about Mordor, but they had an autocratic regime that didn't exactly allow for any kind of creativity. It was because they did not respect their competition in Rivendell. They didn't, and they wound up paying the ultimate price for it. I think Skaro knows exactly who the Time Lords are, and they will do whatever they possibly can to make sure that they are indeed exterminated.
That is a great insight into the difference in approach here. I think a lot of people look at Skaro and Mordor as being very similar teams, and in a lot of respects, they're outwardly similar in their rhetoric, their style of play, but you have a very top-down approach with Mordor, and you have a very balanced approach on Skaro. There's, as we're talking about, one of the reasons the rumors of them bringing in other players is that there isn't really one standout player from the Daleks, and that's not to say that they're not all threats, because they are.
And they're not. I mean, if you want to compare them to some of the people that they've been linked to recently, like the Cybermen, the Cybermen are really, they're not tremendously, they don't have a lot of field intelligence, as it were, where Skaro, as much as they are uniform, they give a lot of leeway on the ground for their operatives to get the job done in the way that it best fits for them. They don't all march in lockstep like some of these other people of their ilk that they're even being linked to, which makes them the natural leaders.
Yeah, Todd Whitehead points out the Time Lords did lose their lease on the facility. They have home games on the schedule right now, but we don't know where they're going to play them. That's a very interesting point.
Not to mention, what kind of doctor are we going to see when this season starts? Somebody that, unlike any player in the history of the FSL, underwent so many transformations in terms of both his game and personality. Was it too much? They made it to the finals and ultimately lost, but was it a distraction to maybe some of the other players, despite the fact that the Doctor is easily the star of that team, if not the face of of this very league.
And while Skaro is very focused on taking down Gallifrey, Gallifrey is also very focused on Skaro. That could work to the detriment of both squads. And you could see somebody like the brand new Cylon Raiders, like the San Francisco Federation, even the New York Avengers, if they regain their focus, benefiting from those two teams being too focused on each other.
We're going to have to see. I mean, this is a lot of, what I think we're going to focus on specifically through the beginning of this season, that where are a lot of these teams going to settle? I can't remember a season of FSL where we had so much we didn't know leading into the first game.
Yeah,
a lot needs to settle.
A lot of questions that we've talked about. We haven't mentioned the Arrakis Sandworms and their ownership change that is rumored. A lot of questions leading up to the first week still there. A lot of questions about the Ponyville Fillies. They are probably not the cupcakes that a lot of people think they are. This is a tough bunch, and I think they're going to surprise a few people out of the gate.
Well, and especially when we're talking about teams like Skaro that are building the ultimate killing machine. How do they match up with somebody like Ponyville that plays, let's be very honest, a far more delicate style?
Yeah, it is intricate, it's delicate, it's young.
Yes.
It may even be considered a little flashy, but it's effective. And it's not something that any of these teams, especially the teams like Arrakis and Coruscant, who've been in the FSL for years now, are familiar with. So there's going to be some getting used to there.
Todd Whitehead, New York has been marred by the extremist performance-enhancing scandal. Listen, if you want to, well, like what day is it that there is a Tony Stark-related controversy that is completely taking all the attention off the field and putting it on one person? To be brutally honest, Todd, I think this is the exact reason why the franchise might be moving in a different direction. I mean, am I saying right now that I think that Tony Stark will never appear, on the field this season? No, I think that he is certainly a huge part of that franchise. But do I think that he's going to get away with stuff, the likes of which he got away with Nick Fury? Absolutely not. I think that this is, from a top-down organizational standpoint, they want to put a stop to stuff like this.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point when you're talking about the Avengers, because Nick Fury really shielded these players in a lot of ways, and that led to a lot of inconsistency. Shield's been taken away now, right? You've got Xavier in charge. This is a whole different ball game, and you won't be able to get away with a lot of the things that we saw them get away with last year.
Not to mention that if we're looking at a youth movement, Charles Xavier, the professor, he's somebody that you're going to wonder whether or not Tony Stark wants to learn lessons standing next to people that are a lot younger than him.
Revenar wants to know when Skaro and Gallifrey play each other. They are in the same division, so they'll play each other twice. And the first matchup is week 1, baby, right out of the gate, June 7th. Skaro at Gallifrey. Now, what that means at Gallifrey, we don't know yet. But yeah, they're going to hit each other hard in week 1, and then they meet again in week 10. So it's open and close for the Time Lords and the Exterminators.
But here's my question to you, Tom. You expressed a lot of cynicism, and I think rightly so, that Skaro would be able to make the kind of deals that have been rumored to bring on kind of a super squad to play Gallifrey. But if they're going to do it, you kind of figure they'd have to do it by week 1, right? If they're thinking, if they're preparing right now for that week 1 matchup, it's not like they're really going to have a chance to tinker with stuff, because every game in division is important, and specifically for Skaro, they want to send a message early in this season that just because they're new and just because Gallifrey made it to the finals doesn't mean that they do not plan to exterminate anybody in their path.
Yeah, that is a really good point. I mean, you cannot wait. It's only a 10-game season. If you're going to do it right away. And it's not like they have a patsy schedule. Week 2, Skaro is at home against Arrakis. Week 3 at Ponyville. Week 4 at New York for the Avengers. Then we get the All-Star break. They're back from that hosting Cylon. So none of these teams appear, at least, to be the kind of patsy that you would want to have to pad your schedule. There's no padded schedules in the FSL.
Well, and Cavo points out in the chat room, and this is not to be, we've had a lot. I mean, a fairly glowing kind of references to Professor X, but let's not forget the Spygate scandal, in which he was alleged to be using the Cerebro device in Westchester to get inside the minds of opponents. This is something that has dogged him for years. He has been very unrepentant about it and cagey about whether or not it actually exists. But that's out there, and that's not going to go away just because he has taken this job. In fact, with the high-pressure media market, this ain't Westchester. This is the big city.
Yeah. Well, Mike P. Kennedy points out Xavier has some sketchy ties to Eric Lenscher. Could be a PR nightmare for New York.
Well, listen, I think that's unfair. I mean, that they are people that have known each other for a long time.
But it's out there. People like Revan are talking about it.
Well, I really I don't think that just because he has a friendship with somebody that has proven himself to be unseemly, that he should be made some sort of magnet of controversy.
Fair enough. Somebody was asking, who was it? Lynn was asking about Ponyville. Their schedule starts off at Arrakis. That's not going to be easy for a brand new team to the league, especially playing in front of that crowd there in the Sandworms. And then they are hosting Gallifrey. Wow. Then they're hosting Skaro, and then off to Cylon week 4. So, man, wow. None of these. I mean, I don't think you can describe an easy road, right? Yeah.
There's no there. I mean, although they wound up winning the championship a few years ago, there are no Cantonville Janes here. There are no teams that really, I mean, especially to the first half of that season, that they really got the pants kicked off them.
Although we would have probably said that at the beginning of last season, and look what happened to the Vulcan Velocity. So,
well, I mean, that might have been among the most tremendous collapses that we have ever seen. And at the end of the day, I think, what has always been the knock on Vulcan is just a very simple lack of passion. And you cannot say that about anybody in this version of the FSL.
One thing we've never had in recent memory, it's been a long time, put it that way, is a tie for the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say it's gonna happen this season, but with this kind of parity, you risk Commissioner Selden having to make some sort of ruling. I mean, you could conceivably have all 4 teams in a division with exactly the same records.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you got to figure. I mean, anything is possible here in the FSL. That is for sure. But geez, I can't imagine what would have to conspire to have that happen, to have all these teams be this equal. As I do think there are natural advantages. I mean, like, right now, if you are anybody but the San Francisco Federation, you are looking up at a team that has run themselves. I mean, we're talking about wholesale changes up top for a lot of these teams, from ownership or management on down. And the only thing that we can say about the San Francisco Federation, the incoming champions to this league, is that maybe they won't be able to afford both their aging superstar legend and the next generation of this team. And yeah, maybe that transition happens, but it's not like these people, not like the roster that they have constructed for San Francisco would be anything less than championship caliber, even losing Kirk.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They could lose Kirk and Spock and still have championship caliber. It's funny, the only other team that is as stable as the San Francisco Federation, and arguably more stable, is the Coruscant Empire. At least going into the season, rumors aside, scuttlebutt aside, this is a solid lineup that has been trotted out for years. And I say trotted out because, like I said, they don't do great, they don't do bad. They're ripe for rejuvenation. So stability can work against you sometimes too. Don't
well,
forget.
I think that's. I mean, we would not be having rumors about wholesale change in Coruscant if things are not, we're not as kind of mediocre as they are. But listen, at the end of the day, Palpatine runs that team with an iron fist. He has a very peculiar way of looking at things, and there's nobody else that can make those decisions. So I agree with you. Anybody else wondering about any kind of big change, it's kind of you're living in a fantasy world because
that is absolutely right. Runs it with an iron fist. That fist is Vader. The hand is Jade, and they can't win. That's the problem. You know, they think they can just march out with the same game plan every time, and just crush the opposition, and it has not worked out for them.
Well, and you got to wonder, I'll say it. I know he's a marketable face for this league, but is Darth Vader clutch? Check the numbers. Check the numbers. Check those games. Check the stat lines against the Alderaan Rebels. And granted, they're not there anymore. But listen, when it came down to it, he either failed to get the job done or he literally threw things away.
Yeah, let's not be too hard on him. I think there's a good player inside there. But you're right. A lot of times his plans do not go well, and he tends to want to point the finger and blame his other teammates. Well, Justin, we really could do this all night.
And in fact, thanks to all of your generosity on Kickstarter, we will certainly do several more hours of this over the next couple months. Thank you guys so much. I mean, listen, this was originally scheduled to be us kind of doing the telethon, dial now.
Give us a little back in, but we don't have to do that now.
But yeah, it's we'll see. We will absolutely see. How will the ancient fear impact Coruscant? Well, I'll tell you what. If that's the mantra, then
tell you what, the ancient fear is losing. That's what the ancient fear is. Nobody wants that.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. It has been very, very fun.
It has been. I'm gonna take us out on a little.
It was 3
big boom.
when I heard the sound.
Thanks, everybody.
Stuck my head outside and I looked around.